Welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Myles High Pod. Took a little break for a sec, but we are back at it. All right. And as you know, the vision and goal for this pod is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Hope everyone is good. It's good to be back. I took a quick break, a little, couple of months off. Did some traveling, did some good stuff. I had some time to reflect on what we've been discussing. But the break wasn't too long. I couldn't stay away too long. I had to come back. So it's good to be back. For this pod today, I want to discuss this topic that I've talked about, in like past places that I've spoken at or whatever. And even over the break, I had a conversation about it with some friends and whatnot. But I wanted to bring it to the pod, right? And so the topic for today's pod is you are not for everyone. All right? You are not for everyone. I think that this is something that I wished I learned from an earlier age, that I wasn't for everyone, that everyone just wasn't going to agree with, everything that I did or said, wasn't going to like, wasn't going to, just be on the same wavelength and mindset that I am, right? Because, we're just all made very uniquely, right? And we're not made for everyone to like us, right? We live in a world where, if we have a difference of opinion, we're viewed as a hater, right? And I guess never, and even like in most recent times, right? Let's say within the last 5 to 10 years, if your opinion isn't a popular one, you're deemed a hater, right? And I guess never understood that or don't understand that. I just think that, we all see things differently. We all have different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things. And I feel like those differences is what makes this world revolve, right? It causes us to evolve as human beings just because of our differences and because we have to learn to live with those differences, right? And for some reason, the world just wants everyone to think the same way and to do the same things. And it's always caused a lot of conflicts, within our communities, amongst ourselves as friends, as professionals, even on the spiritual level, right? This the differences that we feel and experience cause a lot of conflict. But what I want to get through on this pod is this particular episode is that we are not, or you are not, for everyone. Why can't we all just agree to disagree, right? There's no reason for us to have to disagree with someone and then be disrespectful, right? I'm not saying that because we differ in our views that I am going to now be disrespectful towards you because you don't see things the way that I see it. I think it's, having these differences of opinions and these differences of thinking is good, right? It creates conversation, it creates communication, it causes us to evolve in all aspects of our lives, right? And especially on a professional level, right? Because we understand, the diversity that we have within the communities that we live in, and that breeds for innovation, and I think that's a healthy thing. I think, we shouldn't be disrespectful, like I said, but we should be focusing on doing us, right? Being ourselves, doing what makes us happy. I think a lot of times we, as human beings, we seek our affirmations from our friends, from our family, from our loved ones, right? All of those individuals that are around us, right? We try to sometimes make people happy by disregarding our feelings and the things that we love and the things that we like to do, right? We try to make the decisions not based on our personal wants or needs, but based on everyone's expectations or based on everyone's opinions. And that's never healthy, right? I try to tell people that, we should make decisions based on the things that we love, right? The things that we like. I don't think that it's healthy for us to continue to live a life where we're living for others. We're living for people. We need to make a decision that, man, from this point on, whatever age you are, whatever aspect, whatever position you are in life, you're making a decision to make decisions based off of like what you love and what you like to do, not based off the popular opinion or the opinion of someone else, right? I learned at a very early age that, when I try to make people happy outside of my happiness, it never ends well, right? I remember, in one of my earlier relationships, in my mind, the way that I wanted to get this particular girl to like me was for me to be who I thought she wanted me to be, right? And that's what I did, right? I started to, and this is just me obviously making assumptions. I was fairly young at the time, still trying to figure life out. And I just kind of changed who I was to try and fit this mold of who I thought, this young lady would have liked or she would have wanted in a companion. And, that's what I did. And sure enough, she and I jumped into a relationship. And after a while, I just, realized that, man, I'm not being myself. I've been, just being this alternative person who I wasn't familiar with, couldn't sustain who this person was and what they stood for and the way that they spoke and, the different things that they did. And it just started to become weird, man. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. And we didn't, our relationship didn't last because it wasn't founded on me being who I was. And I remember, telling myself at an early age, even at that point in my life, that, I will never do that again. I'm never going to mold myself into something that I wasn't in order for me to be accepted by someone else. And, I think, going through that, for me, it happened through a relationship, but for you, it may happen through a job. It may also happen through a relationship, like a relationship between you and an opposite sex. But the earlier you can figure that out, I think the better it'll be for you. Because for me, it just helped me to understand that being original, being unique in who I was, boded well for me versus trying to please, others and whatnot. Who aren't going to agree with what you say and agree with what you do. And some people do it simply because they can, right? We live in this, this social media world where, people have opinions on everything, and they express themselves online, and it could affect the way that, and it does affect the way people live, right? Because they're so fixated on, man, I don't want to disappoint or just be disapproved by this group of people or that group of people, so they try to appease all of these groups. And I think if we could understand that, man, I'd be like, we're just not going to be liked by everyone. I think it'll just make life so much easier, right? And I think there are three things that I like to focus on that has helped me through this, right? The first is authenticity, right? I think people respect it. Even if they don't agree with it, like, they respect the fact that you are being your authentic self. And the way that you be your authentic self is when you continue to say and do the same things over and over, right? Consistency. I think it allows people to really understand who you are, what you're about, what you do. And even if they don't agree with it, they respect it because it is who you are, right? You're being yourself. And I've noticed that even in like different avenues in business, right? When it comes to attracting persons to buy into what it is that you're doing or selling, the services that you're offering or the product that you're offering, people don't always buy products because they like the product, right? Sometimes it's just because they like the person. They connect with the person. They could relate with that person, and it has a lot to do with that authentic value that the person is bringing to what it is that they're doing, right? And I always think, and I always thought, and I still do believe that authenticity is the key to connecting with your core group, right? The people that are really going to buy into who you are, what it is that you do, what it is that you're offering to the world. As long as you're being your authentic self, that connection is going to happen. The second thing is to understand that no is freeing. Being able to say no, it's such a freeing feeling, right? Because I remember growing up, especially, being the son of a pastor, and people putting all of these expectations on me, feeling that I had to appease everyone, right, and say yes to everything, even if I didn't feel like doing it or feel like going or whatever the situation was, right? Just being inundated with having to say yes, and the frustration that brought on. And as I grew and developed as an individual, I started to realize that it's okay to say no. Like, if I don't feel like doing something, regardless of who is asking or who's requesting it, I'm going to say no. And just knowing that being able to say no and saying no is a freeing feeling, because it allows you to understand that I'm important and I come first, and how I feel and what I want to do with the decisions that I have and the opportunities that I have, all falls on me, right? And I think, as long as we continue to make decisions not based on others but based on ourselves, it's okay, right? And even now I find myself feeling the pressure to sometimes say yes. And then even I may say, I remember recently, someone had asked me to commit to this speaking engagement that they wanted to connect me with this group or whatever. But I had there was no affiliation or connection that I had with the group. It was just through this individual. And because I knew this individual, or I know this individual, and I'm familiar with them, I think I kind of automatically just said yes, knowing that maybe deep down I didn't really want to do it. But said yes nonetheless, just because of, sometimes the relationships, you just kind of feel a bit of an urge to say yes, right? Because you don't want to disappoint someone that's very eager on, making a certain connection. And then I remember, thinking about it, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, you know what? I can do this. I just remember being so anxious of, man, I don't really want to do this, because now I have to I have to put myself in this mindset of whatever this opportunity was going to pull from me, right? And it was just something that I didn't want to do, wasn't motivated to do, and decided not to. So I, called the person up and was like, yo, man, look, I know I committed to doing this, but I have to push back on that, because, I kind of misspoke, and after thinking about it, I don't think this is something that is really fit for me to do. And if you could find someone else to do it, I think it'll be much better. And being able to do that was just so freeing for me. And I've just reached that stage of my life where I have no problem saying no. I will say no to anyone. Maybe not my wife.
You will tell me no.
I definitely will tell her no. Oh man, that's funny. But you tell me no all the time too.
I do. I am no is my favorite word.
So, but the fact that being comfortable saying no, and the fact that it's freeing, and how freeing it is, because sometimes we commit to things that we really don't want to commit to, simply because of the people that are asking us or the situation that we're in, right? And having the freedom or even the courage, right? Sometimes it just takes courage to say no, right? We don't even need to be free, right? We just have to build up the courage to be like, no, I don't want to do this, because sometimes we just don't want to disappoint, our loved ones or our friends or, those that are around us, because we feel like saying no will do that. But at the end of the day, nobody really cares, right? I think those who really know you and love you would understand if you say no and wouldn't feel a way about it. So I again, being able to say no is freeing. And then the third thing is ignoring the comments. Now this is super important, right? I recently I watched this. So there's this big comparison between LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and who's the greatest of all times, right? And A lot of people say Jordan is the greatest just because of the accolades that he had. A lot of people feel like, LeBron has surpassed those accomplishments in his career and is, should be considered the greatest. But, I heard a unique spin on that debate where someone was saying, when during Jordan's era, social media did not exist, right? Jordan didn't have to inundate him. He wasn't inundated with people's opinions, right? We have, sports talk shows didn't exist in the era of Jordan, or like sports news didn't exist, right? So now you have like ESPN and you have all of these platforms where people are constantly talking about sports. So like, after the game happens, there's a week of commentary until the next game happens, or a few days of commentary until the next game happens. So it's just this consistent badgering of these players, right? And, they were saying like Jordan didn't have to deal with that. Imagine if Jordan had to deal with what LeBron had to deal with, right? LeBron walked into his basketball career with social media being this juggernaut of people that didn't have no credibility of being sports commentators or sports analysts. It's just people with opinions.
You're losing us.
And expressing. See, these. You know what? I ain't gonna call y'all haters.
You're losing it.
That goes against what I'm saying, right? But I'm just saying, like, there are going to be people that have their opinions, right? And you have to be a certain type of person to be able to ignore those opinions, to be able to ignore those comments, to be able to look online and see a comment about yourself or see someone saying or doing something that is negatively impacting you and being able to not respond, right? I think, because understanding, and I feel like that comes with understanding that, okay, there's just going to be people out there that don't agree with or don't like me as a person, as a professional, don't like what I do, don't like things that I say. And, I'm just trying to point out that, the eras of Michael Jordan back in the 90s and LeBron in the 2000s, the big difference was social media, right? And the fact that LeBron has been able to, and he's had some mishaps, right? He's done and said some things, in my opinion, that, he allowed the comments to affect him, right? But I think for the most part, if you look at LeBron's career in totality, he's done pretty well with all of the negativity that he's had to deal with. And then, you just got people who love Michael Jordan and just are not going to like or love LeBron James. And, I think him as a person is a great example of someone that just understands that he is not for everyone. Like, everyone isn't going to like him, regardless of what he does, regardless of his accomplishments. He's not going to be loved or liked by everyone. And, my wife is looking at me. She's a big Jordan fan. She feels like Jordan is the greatest of all time. And regardless of, the stats that I may present, like, look what LeBron did. Like, it's always, Jordan never lost in the finals. Jordan never went to Game 7. Jordan won 3 straight twice. If he didn't take that break those 2 years, it would have been 8 straight.
You're proving our point, though.
I'm not saying, but the debate isn't who is the best. The debate right now, I'm not, whether Michael Jordan is your GOAT or LeBron James is your GOAT. I'm just saying the difference of the two eras has to do a lot with social media. And I just feel like, personally, I feel like the fact that LeBron had to live through this daily commentary of individuals just having their opinions on everything that he does, not even just on the court, right? They have their opinions on his family, on what he does with his family, how he raises his family, his kids, his wife, his businesses, like all of these things that have nothing to do with basketball. Everyone has a comment about. And being able to ignore the comments is important. I feel like it's freeing.
I disagree because I think when we look at media, we always try to say, oh, social media this and social media that. But when we look at it back in the day, and I say our because a lot of us was there, we had newspapers, we had TV shows, which is our social media, and all of those, in my opinion, were on the same level as social media. So what we know as social media is the TV, the radio, and stuff like that. And I think they were just as brutal to Jordan, especially during his gambling days and all of the stuff he had to go through. And I think he still was very much criticized. And I think we could say that Jordan is one of those people who does not pay attention to criticism. We don't even hear from Jordan in the social, like we don't even know what Jordan is be doing. Like
So-
I feel like it's kind of even in that perspective, because there are a lot of athletes who I think commented like there were avenues for them to make comments and to talk about the criticism, but Jordan was like, I blind to y'all. Like, I don't even care what y'all have to say. Like, I'm doing what I have to do, and that's that.
100%, right? I'm not disagreeing with you, but we're talking about a newspaper or magazine, like articles that would have been released on like something that Jordan did or whoever at the time. That's not even, pinpointed to Jordan. You had a random TV show that might have been aired that made a comment or, had an opinion about Jordan or whoever, right? But then now you have Joe Blow who ain't working and at home on his computer all day that has now developed a platform on whether it's YouTube or podcasting or all of these thousands or millions of people now that are able to express themselves and give commentary on things that they know nothing about. People who haven't played professional sports, people who haven't established any credibility with the things that they may be talking about, right? Those are the persons that I'm talking about. I'm not saying that it didn't exist back in the day. I'm just saying now it exists on a scale where it's 1,000 times what it was back in Jordan's era.
So I wasn't going to jump in this one because I think we're all going to the point of the fact that you're saying about ignoring what the people are saying, right? But I got to correct you on this one because Sharice did bring up a great point in regards to now, like you said, you have Joe Blow Schmo on social media on their particular accounts in the comment sections, mm-hmm. One that you could turn off. 2, you don't have to log into the Instagram app if you don't want to. You could actually have your publicist handle your Instagram, etc., and you can avoid that. Back in the day, I don't know if you remember, when Fresh Prince come on, everybody used to come around the TV at 8 o'clock around that time. When the Tonight Show was on, families come around the TV to watch. You had much more of a powerful influence on the way people perceived you back then versus than they do now, because you could also have people in the comment section advocating for you. No, LeBron is this, and you can see it pinned at the top of the comments. Back then, what the news says was gold. What the newspaper printed on the New York Times on Monday was in gold. You know what I mean? And I think those type of criticisms was much more heavily weighted versus than the ones now that you could choose to ignore, listen to. Now, I'm just saying.
Say for Twitter, me and you always have this discussion that Twitter is an alternate universe. Like, if you aren't on Twitter, you don't know what's going on in there. So, like, if you are a player, you totally disregard that news, and whatever the noise is on there, they don't count because you're not paying attention to that. So you pay attention to what you want to pay attention to.
Right.
So if you take away all that distraction, that doesn't affect you. Like, I mean, you don't see Beyonce on Twitter running on with these people.
No, 100%.
So, I mean,
but
I think it's all about perspective
But I think we're saying the same thing.
We are.
I'm not saying that the commentary didn't exist back then.
No, it did, but I don't want you to say that it's strong. I think it's even, in my opinion. And another thing, like how Drew said, the people back in the day had way more influence. Like, the influence of some random user on Twitter or Instagram ain't gonna move the needle, but a commentary from, I don't know, whoever was a big, like Oprah or someone weighed heavily, took that was around the world, printed on newspapers everywhere. Newspapers was the standard. Like, social media, people still have in their mind that social media, like older people, that social media, ain't nobody care about that. Like, to me, it's still very much balanced, in my opinion. Like,
however, they still wasn't as cruel to
it was.
It wasn't as cruel.
Yeah.
But that's because Jordan was just great to her.
Exactly. So I think.
So they love Jordan.
Yeah. Exactly.
So again, I 100% agree with you guys, right? All I am saying is that even though that, back in the day, the persons that had these platforms and these stages had bigger influence, I think now the influence is widespread because of technology and the advancement of it, right? The world that we live in now is so fast paced. The generation that is coming up now doesn't know a world that doesn't exist without social media, right? So take someone, for example, like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, you would think, would have a strong mindset to ignore comments, which is what I'm recommending. But because he is so inundated, well, he's so fixated on I guess being liked or wanting to be liked, that he takes the time out to read these comments and respond. He went as far as to create a burner account to respond to some of these comments. And it like, to me, it's just like, man, you know, that just shows that, you know, your mindset isn't in the right place, right? Because you shouldn't, especially as like someone as Kevin Durant, like as great as you are in the profession that you're in, you yourself should know that I'm just not going to be liked by everyone. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that Jordan wasn't liked or was liked, or LeBron is liked or wasn't liked. I'm just showing the differences in the social media world that we live in now, and the amount of commentary that exists today versus the commentary that existed back in the day. Because you're right, like the commentary was fixated for a period of the day, right? 8 o'clock prime time, or 10 o'clock, like whenever. Right now, it's 24/7. It's a 24/7 cycle of this person being inundated with opinions about them and what they say and what they do. So I'm just trying to point out the differences in the amount of commentary that exists today, and being able to ignore those comments. Go ahead, Drew. Being
and then also the level of commentary too.
Yeah.
At least back then, when you did have control media,
you had credible people talking. Exactly.
Now you have someone who hate themselves in their mother's basement, saying hateful words to you,
and they might not even believe what they're saying.
They
right?
just want the reaction.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the differences that I'm saying. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is just ignore the comments. Like, understand that, like, everything that you say and everything that you do, like, everyone isn't going to agree with, you know. And that's something that I have, like I said, I've learned from an earlier age. And it's actually funny to me now, like, when I see people that disagree with things that I say or disagree with things that I do. Like, if it's affecting you to the point where you're getting upset, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we could agree to disagree. We could have a great conversation about it, or even a debate about it if you want. But being able to cause someone to affect the way that you respond, or responding in a negative way, just, you know, it isn't worth it, and it doesn't make sense. So being able to ignore those comments and ignore the opinions of others based on the things that you love, the things that you say, the things that you do, whether right or wrong, right? And understanding that you just have to take responsibility for those things. I think it takes you a long way. You want to say anything?
I mean, in this generation and those coming after, I think it's pretty hard to give the advice to just ignore social media and comments, because that's what they grew up on. That's what they live and survive on. So that's all they know. Like, we see young rappers, young writers, even Coco Gauff. She's like, the last thing I read, she was like, oh, I see what y'all be writing on social media about me. And, you know, like, so this is what they
but no,
do.
I'm not saying not to see it. You can see it. I think being aware of it is good. But not allowing it to cause you to respond negatively is what I'm referring to.
I mean, sometimes you have to let people know, listen.
No, you don't. So
I think sometimes you have to, like,
agreed.
Sometimes you have to put your foot down because people feel like they can say anything about you on social media. Yeah, like, people just make up rumors and lies. 100%. And, like, when celebrities respond to some of these trolls, it's like, that's when they realize, like, okay, this one's going to respond. At
the end of the day, those responses really doesn't move the needle any which way, right? It just creates a bigger issue or a bigger wave of attention towards, like, now you responded to this person. Now you're creating a bigger pool of opinions and commentary now that extends the life of, you know, what this person said based on you ignoring it and only lasting a couple of hours or a day maybe.
I agree, but sometimes, like I say, you just got to show people. Like,
so, like, this funny because me and my wife have this conversation all the time, right? Like, she is the one who is always ready to pop off. You know what I mean? Like, she is one of those persons who, if you say anything, she ready. Oh, you know, you all know that meme, whether it is Kermit the Frog, and he typing on this typewriter at the head on. Like, that's my wife, and I always referring that meme to her. She just be gangbanging on these keyboards.
It's just, no disrespect will be allowed.
And I could understand that, but what I'm saying is like, as much of it as you could ignore is good. Like, obviously there are some comments that is going to be hard to ignore, and you may feel the urge to respond, and you may respond, but even tempering the way you respond, maybe, right? And like, just, yes, responding, but doing it respectfully, and being witty about it, and just not allowing it to affect you in a negative way.
To Charo's point, moving the needles, do you responding to them and checking them, did it make the situation better?
No, it doesn't. It just makes her feel. It makes her feel better.
No, it did, because some people don't feel like you're going to respond, and when you respond, they start to backtrack.
Fair.
So
like I said, sometimes people have these negative comments and responses simply because they can't.
Exactly.
Right? They may not even feel negatively towards you. And that's like I've watched fans like negatively talk about LeBron or negatively talk about any like players, right? Or any like athletes, pro athletes. And they do it online or whatever. And when they see these people in person, they asking for autographs, they asking for pictures.
Different energy.
Like, it's like, no, bro, keep the same energy you had online. Don't be a fan now because you're in front of my face and you actually like the fact that, or you're actually a fan of me. You know what I mean? And that's the world that we live in now, right? Everyone has their opinions, and like I say, there's people out there that love you, people out there that hate you, people out there that don't care either way.
And people out there just trying to use you to make money from online engagement.
Absolutely. And trying to, clout chase and do clickbaits, and, if you respond, you buying into that and you giving them what they want. So being able to ignore the comments I feel is great. The more popular you are, or the more celebrated you are, the more negativity and the more hate you get. That's just the way life goes, right? The more people that know about you, it brings along the more people that pick at you and who you are and what you do and what you wear and how you look, right? It's just all of this negativity that the world is filled with. And I think we have to take ownership and take a hold of our responses and what we allow ourselves to see and do versus based on like someone else's opinion. If you aspire to be like uber successful, right? And you want to be, let's say you want to be a singer, an athlete, like whatever it is you want to do in life, and you're worried about someone else's opinion of you, like you're starting off on the wrong track. Like, you need to build your confidence up to a point where no one else's opinions matters, right? You know who you are, you know what you are, you know why you are, you know where you're going, right? And you understand that to your core, where no one else is going to affect that. Someone else's opinion about you isn't going to affect how you feel about yourself. And like I say, as authentic as you can be and as consistent as you can be with that authenticity, the respect is going to come from people. Like I remember, like, I was never a fan of Kobe Bryant. Close to
says a lot. Says a lot.
Close to, I wouldn't say hate, right? But I had a strong dislike for Kobe for no reason. I think as I got older, I started to understand like why and like what it was. And it was because Kobe was such a great player that he would win, like will himself sometimes to winning, right? And the arrogance that he showed is, I think, what I had the biggest issue with. But and I think a lot of people, like, his arrogance rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But as you started to understand like who Kobe was and like what made him tick and like why he was so confident and why he was so why he was the person that he was, like, I started to grow a respect for Kobe, right? And like my hate for him, quote unquote, turned into like this strong level of respect. So I'd be like, yo, I don't like Kobe, but I respect Kobe. Like, I respect his game. I respect the attitude that he brings to the court. I respect the pull that he takes or that he gives to his teammates and the greatness that he wants them to achieve versus what he wants himself to achieve, right? Like, he wants greatness and expects everyone around him to want the same. And, I think that's something that he took from Jordan, because obviously Jordan was a psycho when it came to like basketball and being a professional and winning. And, I think like eventually people understand that what makes you thick and that authenticity about you. And, they begin to respect it. And I think that respect is what separates those people that, really don't dislike, people that really dislike you versus those that love you, right? And the ones that dislike you, even though they may not love you as an individual or as a player or, whatever your profession is, they respect who you are as an individual. And I felt, I felt it necessary to have this conversation because I feel like, especially as young individuals, like trying to discover who we are and develop ourselves on all levels, on all aspects of our lives, we're met with this desire to please, right? This desire to be loved and liked by everyone that's around us. And the faster we can realize that that is something that is never going to be achievable, the quicker we're going to build that confidence within ourselves to be different and to be okay with being disliked, right? There's no one that is successful on this planet that is loved by everyone. Jesus wasn't loved by everyone, right? So who are we to think that we can be loved by everyone? And I think having that mindset and having that mentality and developing that and continuing to, reiterate that to ourselves and constantly remind ourselves of the fact that we're not going to be liked by everyone because we're not for everyone. It allows us to understand who our core group is, who our core supporters are, right? And to focus on them because that's where a lot of our success, and I'm talking long-term success, is going to come from, right? Because those are the persons that love us and love you for what we are and what we represent and what we try to bring to the table and why we try to encourage others to do the same. Because, we have this understanding of we are not for everyone. And that's kind of what I just wanted to say. I think that created a great conversation, right? Anytime you bring up LeBron and Jordan, there's always going to be a debate in the room. I don't care where it's at. And just using that example of them and this debate around, who's the greatest of all time versus, and compared to the different eras and where we are now, and just being able to understand that, everyone isn't going to like me and you have to be okay with that. I think that, again, once we come to that realization, it just makes life entirely a lot more easier. All right. So this is, I want to add something to the pod now, right? During this break, I've been able to kind of think like, what did I want to tweak or, what did I want to do to kind of bring a little bit more to the pod, right? And I want to add this portion of the pod where I ask this one question. I'm going to start it off, right? This is the first episode back. But any guest that I bring on to the pod, this is going to be the question that I pose to them. And that question is, how do you define success? I think that's a very important question that, I like to have a conversation about because society has brainwashed us into thinking what success is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, right? The amount of money we have in the bank, the car that we drive, the house that we live in, the amount of people we know, our social networks and all of these things that, really, really don't define success. And I want to give my unique definition of success, and then I want to get everyone else that I bring onto the pod moving forward their unique definitions of success. So I'm going to start it off. How do I define success? I define success in a very simple way, right? Doing what you love, ensuring that you're not only doing it because you're not doing it for selfish reasons, but you're also helping those around you in the process. So success is being happy about where I am in life, discovering, like truly, truly defining who I am and my purpose in life, and being able to help others do the same. If I'm able to do that, like that's success for me. I'm truly passionate about encouraging others to discover their unique purpose on this earth. Answering those 5 questions those 5 most important questions. Who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? What can I do? Where am I going? That's a passion of mine. And being able to create a platform where others can do the same, can be able to answer those 5 questions, and then start the journey of purpose and fulfilling that purpose on this earth. That's success to me. I don't compare myself to anyone else. I don't want to be anyone else. I don't want to I don't want to out-achieve anyone else. I want to do what I'm here to do and what I've been placed on this earth to do. And I only want to compete with myself, right? I want to I want to ensure that I'm a better man than I was yesterday, a better husband than I was yesterday, a better father than I was the day before. Once I have some kids, and just being able to continue to better myself. That's what I view success as, and ensuring that everyone around me feels that same success as well. All right. So we've reached a portion of the pod now where I want to leave a milestone with you guys. I'm sure you know what a milestone is now. So the milestone for today is as follows. When you realize not everyone is going to like you is when you take your power back. I'll say it again. When you realize that not everyone is going to like you, that's when you take your power back. I want to encourage you to know that we were not placed on this earth to be loved by the masses, right? There's a core group of individuals that we are supposed to assist, supposed to impact, supposed to influence. And our desire, our goal, our mission in life should be to, first of all, discover who and what we are, why we are, what we can do, where we're going, and finding those individuals that we're supposed to carry along with us, the individuals we're supposed to influence. Everyone else doesn't matter because everyone else is not going to get it, right? I think once we understand that about ourselves and are confident about that, then the opinions of others are not going to deter us from that journey. So I just want to encourage you to know that you are not for everyone. All right. So that brings us to the end of this pod. This is a good conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you liked it. Leave some comments in the comment sections. Let's have a conversation about it. Did you do things that you agree with, things that you don't agree with? I'm here for the conversation always. All right. As you know, on this pod, the goal is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Until next time, you guys be blessed.